it was. So my company command at the time got like hauled in, like there's investigations. They're ready to like, probably court martial them. It was a big deal. And then like I think it was Agent Orange and some CA guys. They did like a BDA of like, or what if, so there was a lot of women in there, there was a lot of children. It was like it was like the bad guys and their families. Everybody died. But also like 15 of the top 20 most wanted terrorists in like Iraq were in that building.
Wow.
So it turned to like, all right, well now we can't screw this guy over because they killed like these super high level leadership within the terrorist network. So, but that was just an epic engagement that I'll never forget.
And were they all from the same, I guess, organization or
good question. I never got like the BDA. I just saw the guys in the windows and I know that 2 days earlier, they had, come and killed my brother. So
yeah,
put a stop to that.
Man, what an intense night.
That was like most visceral of anything combat, SEALs included. That was pretty,
wow.
That's pretty cool. Of anything combat, SEALs included. That was pretty,
wow.
That's pretty cool. Of anything combat, SEALs included. That was pretty,
wow.
That's pretty cool. Of anything combat, SEALs included. That was pretty,
wow.
That's pretty cool.
We are go for liftoff in T-30. Stand by for further instructions, Minnesota Black Robe Regiment. Secondary guidance systems engaged. Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, it will be on my mark. Regiment, you are over the target. You are authorized to fire at will.
Hey, I got to center myself on the screen. What? Too many things going on at once. Hey, I'm TC. This is MBRR Media, and we are here today to talk about Adam Schwarze and the use of white phosphorus on Kufa Community College, Technical College in Iraq. And I know it sounds like we've already covered this before. We have to some degree, but we're going to be doing a breakdown of what actually took place. But first, I want to get to honoring my show producer, Ryan Schwarze. This is a in memoriam. His generosity has really stepped in to keep the show going. And I cannot thank his memory enough for that. So thank you very much to Ryan and his loved ones who have extended their Ryan's graciousness to me and the cause, and have partnered with me in an amazing way. So thank you to that. Thank you to all of my channel members. If you like what I do here and you want to support me, you want to support what I do, you can become a channel member, or you can follow the Give, Send, Go link down in the description of this video to partner with me. It's not just, you're not just doing charity work. This is not just donation. You are partnering with me. And once again, big shout out to my volunteer researcher, Natalie. She is phenomenal, and she does a great job of digging into the cases that we're working on. So what we're going to do is Diana's here. Diana, just so you know, every time you comment on my videos, every time you comment during a live stream, every time you go back to click on the video to comment on it, you are driving me further into the algorithm. So if you don't like me and you don't like what I'm doing, you should probably stop. So there you go. And to the channel admins and moderators, do not silence her. But we're going to share this screen right here. This, because I have gotten so much pushback from people telling me that we have to understand that Adam's using gallows humor to explain the situation. I've had people accuse me of strategically editing the video to make it look like I made him say things he didn't say. So we're going to show you, this is Adam describing the Battle of Kufa. This is fair use right here. This is Adam describing the Battle of Kufa and him describing the slaughter of women and children. So, and then he laughs. And then he says what you heard at the end of that last video. It was the most epic and cool thing he ever experienced in the military. So we're going to let him speak first so you can see exactly what he said.
My brother got blown up in my arms. There was a side quest thing called the Kufa Technical College, which across my entire 21 years of service, the most impressive single engagement was that. We found out that a lot of these bad guys were laying up at this like community college area. It was a few buildings. There was a river on one side of it. So you had what's called combined arms, Marine, air, ground. They should have like at the School of Infantry, like a case study on this, where we slipped in somehow without letting the enemy know. We had an entire Marine Corps line company on the river. So there's a river between us and the technical college. And then you had these what's called LAR, which are these 6-wheeled vehicles with like a 25 or 30 millimeter Bushmaster on our flanks, triangulating the objective. And then on the backside, we start
Adam, and I want to clarify something here. I do not want anybody to think that I believe that Adam and his fellow Marines knew there were women and children at this place for sure. So I'm not saying that this was an intentional slaughtering of women and children, non-combatants. It wasn't intentional. However, that doesn't mitigate the fact that they did what they did without knowing. Okay? That does not make it better by any stretch of the imagination. And two, I want everybody to understand Adam is a phenomenal storyteller. He tells stories very well. He's a very good storyteller.
Dropping artillery and our own 81 millimeter mortar so the enemy can't leave. So the only thing the enemy can do can come to the front of the building and fight, or they can die and fire. And they all came to the front of the building and we just lit them up. And that was, 2 days after my brother died in my arms. So I went to like each of my SMA gunners, those rocket guys across the entire flanks, and like, you don't walk back with a rocket. We're going Winchester on this building. Yeah. And we killed thousands of people. And it's like, and then they had it was the most epic. And they had helos coming over our head, and they're flying so low I could like touch the skids as they're doing their mini gun thing. And we shredded these buildings truly. And they cut the buildings in half, and they put like Willie Pete. So bottom line is, we took, I think, just a couple of casualties and killed thousands of bad guys, to the point where you're seeing like the Simpsons meme where it's like, stop killing him, he's already dead. You've seen that's like what it was. So my company commander at the time got like hauled.
So what you guys are seeing here is his phenomenal storytelling. Okay. And that this is all very, very important, that he is not fabricating. He is regaling Mike and the Mic Drop audience with this story of this slaughter. So once again, this is directly from the Mic Drop podcast channel. This is right now, you can go and watch this if you want. Adam is describing this. This is unedited. I didn't touch this at all. This is strictly Adam's words. This is very important.
Then like there's investigations. They're ready to probably court martial him. It was a big deal. And then I think it was Age Orange and some CA guys, they did like a BDA of there was a lot of women in there. There was a lot of children. It was like it was like the bad guys and their families. Everybody died. But also like 15 of the top 20 most wanted terrorists in like Iraq were in that building. Wow. So it turned to like, all right, well, now we can't screw this guy over because they killed like these super high level leadership within the terrorist network. So, but that was just an epic engagement that I'll never forget.
And were they all from the same, I guess, organization or
Good question.
outfit?
I never got like the BDA. I just saw the guys in the windows, and and I know that 2 days earlier, they had come and killed my brother. So
yeah,
we put a stop to that.
Man, what an intense night.
That was like most visceral.
Yeah.
Of anything combat, SEALs included. That was pretty.
Wow.
That's pretty cool.
You heard him, folks, laughing as he's telling the story about killing thousands of people, many of them the families, women and children, innocent non-combatants. Those were his words. That's what it was. That's Adam's words. He was laughing, and he stated right there in this retelling, in this recounting, he was explaining to Mike just how many people died and just how absolutely funny he thought it was. And everybody keeps telling me, you have to understand. You don't understand. You've never been in a situation like that. You don't get it. And they're defending him. And I get it, people. You wanna defend people because you like them. I understand that. You want to defend people. You have to double down on your commitment to a candidate. And I understand. It's a low IQ position. It's a low info position. It's cultish behavior. And I totally understand. It's okay for you to feel that way because you're not thinking about this. So Adam is regaling this story. And just prior to this, he said that being in Iraq was a mistake. He said, in his own words, that the 20 plus years of being in Iraq were a mistake. Because everybody knows that Iraq had nothing to do with September 11th, 2001. So the people that we were killing in Iraq were innocent. We had no business being in Iraq. This wasn't a defensive war. We weren't fighting Iraq because Iraq was a threat. We weren't fighting Iraq because we were afraid Iraq was going to attack us. We were lied to that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction. We were lied to. They used weapons of mass destruction as a way to convince Americans to go to war in Iraq. And they never found the weapons of mass destruction. And then they admitted later on that it was all fabricated. And oh, by the way, who fed us the information that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction? Geopolitical who? Which country in the Middle East that says everybody has weapons of mass destructions? What weapons of mass destruction? So we had no business being in Iraq, which makes this that much worse. It makes this event much worse. And to give Adam a way out by saying, "Oh, it's gallows humor. It's his way of coping." No, folks, it's not his way of coping. It's not okay to be, because Adam retired, I believe it was in 2023. It is now 2026. Adam committed to the military well before this. The Battle of of Kufa, the Kufa Technical College, happened while he was still a Marine, which means, for lack of better terminology, Adam had at least a decade to get past the gallows humor aspect of this. Okay? So Adam is well over a decade removed from the events of this battle, and he's still laughing about it and calling it, in his own words, as you saw, it was the coolest, most epic experience of his entire military career. The slaughtering of families, of innocent women and children, was the coolest experience of Adam's career. Now, we're going to get into white phosphorus, and the question was asked earlier by AVA Veterans Affairs Media. Thank you, Kahanu, for being here. A fellow veteran, much just like me. Jen, thanks for being here. We're going to get into a little bit about white phosphorus and what it does. So white phosphorus is euphemistically referred to, as you heard in the video, as Willie Pete. It has multiple methods of being deployed. Most of the time, what they do, one of the things that they do is they'll drop white phosphorus as a smoke cover, because as soon as white phosphorus hits the air, it starts to produce a heavy, thick white smoke that stops night vision and thermal imaging type equipment from working. It is not a war crime per se to use white phosphorus. It can be a war crime to use something like white phosphorus if you're deploying it against non-combatants. And Adam said in that video, they were already looking at the commander for court-martial and possibly war crimes, basically. But he got away with it because the CIA, and the CIA has a very, CIA has a varied track record, and a lot of people are connected to the CIA. We're going to leave it at that for now. But the CIA steps in and said, nope, you killed some really top guys, so all these dead women and children, that's okay. That's okay. We don't care about the dead women and children, so just leave this guy alone. Just leave this commander alone. Now, what they'll do is they'll punch holes into buildings with artillery, heavy armament and stuff like that, and then sometimes they'll drop shells into those punched holes. Sometimes they'll use grenades. But the white phosphorus is delivered 155 millimeter howitzers, 81 millimeter howitzers, 120 millimeter howitzers, airburst shells most often, mortar shells most often, air to ground rockets. And what they do is they will disable equipment that is made of lighter metals. So it'll burn through light metal. It won't burn through like heavy reactive armor on tanks, but it'll burn through light metal. It'll burn through, it catches wood on fire instantaneously. If you punch a hole through a brick building, anything that's flammable in that structure will begin to burn immediately. So, and as it hits the air, these felt pieces ignite, and the white phosphorus is super reactive, and it also lasts a very long time. So I should check my chats here. Okay, nobody important after Jen is saying anything, so that's fine. So we're going to get back to, as this white phosphorus falls, it begins to burn structures down. And it's often referred to as an area denial weapon. In other words, it makes an area impossible for the enemy to get into or get out of. And if you listen, Adam said that they were focusing artillery on the back of these buildings, heavy artillery on the back of these buildings, and had The small arms fire concentrated on the front because they wanted to drive people to the front of the building where they can engage them with small arms fire. And that's exactly, he said, and that's exactly what happened. These people rushed to the front and they engaged. And I do also want to emphasize, I'm sorry that Adam, 2 days prior to this event, had to watch a fellow Marine die. Every single American service member that dies in combat or dies deployed overseas for yet again another illegal war, by the way, that dies overseas is a tragic loss. There should be no American service members anywhere outside of the borders of the United States. Our military belongs at home on our borders, defending our country. We don't belong in other countries. We don't belong anywhere else. And so this was a very tragic death, and I'm sorry that Adam had to experience that. A good way for people like Adam to not experience the death of fellow soldiers, Marines, airmen, sailors, whatever, the good way for that to not happen is to not deploy our troops into foreign conflicts that we don't belong in. Iraq was one of the one of the best examples of the worst deployments in the history of the United States military. And military experts like Colonel Dave McGregor will tell you Iraq was a huge, huge waste of American lives and money, blood and treasure, and accomplished nothing. We accomplished nothing in Iraq at all, nothing, other than the loss of thousands of Americans and thousands upon thousands of innocent people in Iraq died. For what? So that's all a waste. It's all very tragic. What makes white phosphorus so devastating is its chemistry. It's an allotrope of phosphorus. So it's basically, it's a modified element. It's very unstable. It's extremely reactive. As I've already said, it just burns the second it touches oxygen, atmospheric oxygen. It doesn't need a fuse, so it doesn't have to be lit. And if it's not only exposed to oxygen, but reaches temperatures over 86 degrees, it will combust automatically. And it burns with an incredibly intensive heat. Anywhere from 1,500 degrees to 4,800 degrees Fahrenheit. So steel melts at 2,500 degrees Fahrenheit. Let that sink in. Outside of reactive, heavy armor on certain types of tanks and other pieces of equipment, steel will melt at 4,800 degrees. Or excuse me, 2,500 degrees. White phosphorus can burn as intensely as 4,800, which is almost twice the melting point of steel. It's self-sustaining. It's volatile, and it has a slow reaction time in the sense that it just doesn't burn out quick. It is not easily extinguished. You can completely submerge it in water to cut it off from its air, but it doesn't go inert at that time. It's still reactive. The second you bring that out of the water, it begins to burn again. So you can slather mud over it if you've got it on your arm or on your body somewhere, or you can submerge yourself in water and you can put the white phosphorus out. But the second that you uncover it, it will begin to burn again. Now, here's the medical reality of white phosphorus. This is the medical reality. And this is not going to be easy to listen to. I want you to go with me. I want you to put yourself in the position of the women and children inside of these buildings that Adam is describing. You need to, this is, if you have any humanity in you at all, if you have any empathy for your fellow human beings, if you are a person who says all human life matters, I am pro-life. I don't believe in innocent people dying. If you are outraged by the death of one single innocent person in the world, then you have to listen to this, and you have to be outraged at what the women and children inside of these buildings experienced that night. As these buildings are being tore apart by rocket fire, as these buildings are being leveled by miniguns, these people are inside of these buildings, cowering, trying to protect their children, trying to protect their wives. Mothers are protecting babies. Mothers are protecting little boys and little girls. Trying to get someplace where the bullets can't get them, where the bombs can't get them. And then they begin to feel a burning like they have never felt before. As pieces of this felt flitter down on top of them from above through the holes punched in these buildings. First, it touches their head, or their back, or their arm. And what white phosphorus does is it burns, it's fat soluble. So it dissolves fat. And it will burn through your muscle. It will burn through your fat, through your skin. Until it finally reaches a place where it's cut off from its oxygen. It is slow. It is painful. It's torturous. If you read accounts of people who have had white phosphorus dumped on them, they will tell you that they didn't think they were going to survive. And then they will tell you that after they survived the white phosphorus, they almost wish they hadn't. One of the things that white phosphorus does as it's burning, by the way, is it creates an acidic mist. It produces a gaseous version of phosphoric acid. And if you're anywhere in the vicinity, even if you haven't been coated with the white phosphorus now enters your lungs, and the white phosphorus interacts with the moisture in your lungs, and it burns your lungs. It burns your lungs. So it liquefies you from the outside in and the inside out. It burns through all the dermal layers, eats its way deep into the muscle tissues, tendons, and down to the bone. Someone trying to help you who hasn't been exposed to it could touch you, and the white phosphorus will begin to burn through them, catching their clothing on fire, dissolving their skin, dissolving their muscle. They can breathe in that gas in their efforts to help you. But it's not done there. If you do survive, it poisons your liver, it poisons your other organs. and you live in misery for the rest of your life, whatever's left of it. Some of the long-term effects are systematic toxicity, like I said, rapid failure of the liver, the kidneys, and the heart. Even with a small physical burn, these people can suffer severe cardiovascular failure within days. Within days. If they escape the organ failure, the aftermath is brutal. The recovery is brutal. Most of the time, they're so scarred that they'll never be recognizable. It causes a necrotic decay. The scars left behind by white phosphorus. Imagine being a child. Imagine being a 6-year-old child and surviving this attack and having white phosphorus scars. And these scars are so bad they contract that they permanently remove the ability to contract a joint. It causes the limbs to deform. If you're fortunate enough to live in an area where you can get it, you might be able to get some reconstructive surgery. But we all know that nobody in Iraq anymore can afford reconstructive surgery. So these children, if they survived, are forever going to deal with these scars. And not just the psychological scars. That's bad enough. They're going to deal with this forever because they can't get the surgery to fix it. There is a historic scientific reality that is referred to as jaw, being exposed long-term to the white phosphorus vapor. So imagine being trapped inside of a room in this building as this white phosphorus vapor just sits around you. It causes bone necrosis so bad in the jawbone in particular, thus jaw. It dies and rots away inside of your face. I want to believe that Adam made this story up. That's what I want to believe. But Adam went out in public and told this story, laughed, and giggled. Chortled, chuckled like a little girl at the idea of killing thousands and while they're dumping white phosphorus on top of them. Does the white phosphorus being dumped on innocent women and children, non-combatants, does that make their death? Would it be better had they died without the white phosphorus? It exacerbates the death, but it doesn't mitigate against the severity of it when you think about what it does to people. And, we have Diana in the chat. And like I said, I really appreciate that Diana does come and chat because she pushes every comment she leaves, pushes the algorithm to push this out into other people's feeds. And Diana will do what she did the last time that she showed up in the chat of the live stream. She will come back now over the next several days and she will leave dozens of unhinged comments, which will push the video into the feed. And I see the real-time metrics of my content. YouTube is not good at showing people the real views and the real hours of watch time. I know exactly who's watching from where, and I see how many people are actually watching. So thank you, Diana, for helping get the story out. I really want to thank you, Diana, for helping get the story out about Adam's moral failure here. And like I said, I want to believe he's making up the story, but he says it's true. He says that this is exactly what happened. And so we have to take him at his word. And we have to look at this as a case of Adam being at least a decade removed from this event and still laughing about it. It's 2026. So in 2016, at least, when this took place, I don't know. Does it matter? But it's at least 10 years, right? At least 10 years. A decade. And Adam can tell this story and laugh. Is it PTSD related? Could be. There is such a thing as within the study of soldiers and trauma and other people in high stress positions. They do develop PTSD, but they also develop what's called a moral injury. And a moral injury is when you have done something that is so not in keeping with your morality, your ethics, and you do it anyway. It leaves a gaping hole in your psychology that causes you to be so calloused as to have inappropriate responses to very troubling occurrences. And it's clear in 2026, at least a decade removed from the events that Adam described, that he has not, I'm not saying he hasn't gotten help. I don't know if Adam's gotten help or not. If Adam's relying on the VA, he's probably not gotten the help that he wants because we know how terrible the VA is. The VA is one of the most corrupt organizations in the federal government. Just ask AVA. I mean, it's in his channel title of Veterans Affairs Media. AVA can tell you how corrupt the Department of Veterans Affairs is. So I don't know if Adam's gotten help. I hope he has. But whatever help he has gotten hasn't addressed what appears to be a moral wound. And we have to ask ourselves, if this is a reality, that what happened as Adam describes, what does that say about him? We don't want somebody in office who celebrates abortion, most of us. I know not everybody agrees with me on that. I know not everybody that subscribes to the channel, or even all of my channel members maybe, or others. Some of us are pro-life, some of us are pro-abortion. But we wouldn't want somebody who celebrates abortion, the death and the slaughter of innocent children, or laughs about it. We wouldn't want them holding office. That's beyond the pale. We couldn't afford it in our own conscience to want to see that person holding office. And if we really care about them, we're going to hope and pray that they get the help that they need. Then why would we look at this situation, as Diana said in the very beginning of the video, these things happen in war, and if you're going to try and hurt Americans, that's what you get. Folks, these are the people that are supporting Adam. That's how they talk. That is an absolutely evil, immoral position. That it's okay if women and children die on the battlefield. You got what you asked for. It's the ultimate in F around and find out in their eyes. And they applaud it. They absolutely applaud it. And that's why they want guys like Adam in office. See, people like Diana, they don't have to worry about moral injury in the sense of going to war. They don't have to worry about PTSD. Diana's a very old lady. It's not okay for old people to celebrate young people being sent off to war. The great American author Cormac McCarthy wrote in his book Blood Meridian about his lead character antagonist, the judge. He used the judge to exposit a truth, and that truth was really powerful to me when I read it. And the reason why it stuck out to me, one, somebody turned me on to Cormac McCarthy because they said when they read my writing, they're reminded of Cormac McCarthy, and I thought, oh, that's interesting. I've never read him. So here's this quote from the judge in Blood Meridian, published in 1985. "It makes no difference what men think of war," said the judge. "War endures. As well ask men what they think of stone. War was always here. Before man was, war waited for him. The ultimate trade awaiting its ultimate practitioner. That is why it was and will be. That way and not some other way. War endures because young men love it and old men love it in them. Those that fought, those that did not. The war was the truest form of divination. It is the testing of one's will and the will of another within the larger will, which, because it binds them, is therefore forced to select. See, old men, old women love war because they don't have to fight it. And they love to see old young men go off to war so that they can take pride in watching the young men kill because they don't get to kill. People like Diana can applaud the deaths of thousands of people, women and children, non-combatants, in a community college in Iraq because their morality has been bent and shaped by their love for war. Adam can laugh because Adam loves war. Just mere minutes before he gave this account of this battle where innocent non-combatant women and children died, he said he hates war, but yet now he is back to supporting a war where, guess what, more innocent women and children are being killed by the United States and geopolitical, that country that you can't say because they strike your channel if you say the name too much. Kind of like with COVID. Remember when we weren't allowed to say COVID? You had to come up with ways to get around saying COVID. So I just say geopolitical and you all know what I'm talking about. See, what Cormac McCarthy was communicating to us was there is a bent in many hearts towards war, and we'll justify it. And we'll even regale others with stories of it. Not fictional stories, real accounts. And as my beloved friend Kahanu AVA, Veterans Affairs Media, said, he still cries over the things he had to do when he was in war. And you want to know why? Is it because AVA is weak? Is it because Kahanu isn't a real man? No, it's precisely because he is a real man. You see, Kahanu has to look in the face of his children every day. He has to look at them. And then he sees lifeless bodies of children in the war-torn streets of Iraq. Streets that we tore up. We, the American people. And I'm sorry if you don't like being said that you're responsible, you are responsible. All of us are responsible because we continue to vote for this. And some of us have awakened and said we're not voting for this anymore. So AVA weeps while Adam laughs. Kahanu cries while Adam chortles. Diana said, you can't do anything about him getting elected. You're right. I probably can't, Diana. There's probably not one thing that I can do. I don't have access to any of the records. I don't have access to any of the documents. But I have Adam's words. We have him on video laughing. We do know a few things about Adam. We know that Adam lost his trident. The Navy SEALs took Adam's trident away from him. As of today, he still hasn't gotten it back. And what you have to understand about the loss of the trident, that's not a political thing. You see, the special operations community is apolitical. If you've never known anybody in special operations, whether it be Army Special Forces, what you the unknowing call the Green Beret, Special Forces community, the Delta Force community, MARSOC, Marine Special Operations, Air Forces, pararescue and combat control. I don't know whatever the space commandos are for the Space Force. I don't know. Their pride, in particular, SEALs pride themselves on being the silent warriors, but in particular, the special operations community, they're the silent warriors. They don't go around talking about what they did. They don't need to tell the stories about what they did. They go in, they operate with precision surgical strikes, and then they leave. They infill and they exfil, and it's done, and they don't want to talk about it anymore. And sometimes people write books, but they don't need to build their brand on being a SEAL or Green Beret or MARSOC or pararescue or combat control. They don't build their brand. They don't build their lives. It's not their whole raison d'etre. They don't have to tell the stories. Real or made up, they don't have to tell the stories. Uh-oh, I froze. Interesting. Wonder what that's about. Bear with me. Isn't it funny? The only time this happens is when I'm trying to do a show about something very important. Sorry about that, folks. I don't know what caused the freeze. But they don't talk about it. They don't build their brand on it. They don't talk about how all their no-fail missions that they took part in. They don't talk about turning their entire life into being an extension of having been a SEAL. They don't need to go reach out to the military community and beg them to come and support them. Which, by the way, has been another thing. Well, Adam had a bunch of people that's from the military and other veterans that support him. Well, okay, who cares? I respect and honor my fellow veterans, but I don't care who they support. Just like I don't care if a bunch of them get together and decide to support a Democrat. I'm not going to go support a Democrat just because my fellow veterans support them. That's having other veterans support you. Like, so what? That's an appeal. That's a couple of things. Logic in the logical fallacy world. It's appeal to authority, and it's appeal to experience. Oh, they support him, so he must be good. Like, no. What? So if I can produce more people who are veterans who don't support Adam, does that mean Adam's not qualified? No, it doesn't mean Adam's not qualified. I believe Adam's not qualified, but I believe he's not qualified for different reasons. And Adam's not qualified for precisely the reason that he isn't Kahanu. He's not all the other veterans that have watched him laugh and have been disgusted at what they saw. So if you want to turn a blind eye to the moral wound, the moral injury that Adam displays by laughing at the death of thousands, including innocent non-combatant women and children and infants, then you have no right to claim to be pro-life. You have no right to claim to be the morally superior individual in this conversation. You have no right to claim to be on the right side of history. You don't get to point to all of the people who are veterans and support him, especially if you've never served, by the way. This is incredibly important. I keep getting people saying to me, "Did you even serve in combat?" Who cares? Who cares? I'm not allowed to have a informed perspective on whether or not this was right or wrong unless I've served in combat. Well, if you've never served in the military at all, then you don't get to have an opinion about whether or not they should vote for Schwarze. Right? So if I didn't serve in combat, even though I'm a veteran, and I'm not allowed to have a perspective on Adam laughing about the deaths of innocent women and children that he was involved in killing, then if you didn't serve in the military, you don't get to have an opinion on it at all. You shouldn't even be allowed to vote for Adam because you've never been in the military. You see how that Kafka trap works? You can't back yourself out of it. Do I know at least in Minnesota alone, at least 100 veterans that are disgusted by Adam Schwarze's comments and reactions? Yeah. I know at least 100. Does that make my position more valuable? Nope. So it doesn't make your position more valuable if you know that veterans support Adam. But it does raise questions about whether or not those veterans know the truth about Adam Schwarze. And by the way, we know the truth about Adam Schwarze. We know a lot of the truth about Adam Schwarze. I know more about Adam's past than most of his defenders do. Because I don't just like stick on the surface. I'm a little bit like I'm like white phosphorus when it comes to independent reporting. I get past the surface. I burn down into the middle. So for everybody saying that Adam's just gallows humor, no. For everybody saying that I'm slandering him, I'm libeling him, no. For people saying Adam should sue you, I would love if Adam sued me. I would be giddy as a school. I would be as giddy finding out that Adam was suing me as Adam was at laughing at the deaths of innocent women and children in a combat zone. That's how giddy I would be because I would win. So if you're close to Adam and you have his ear, beg him to sue me, please. I beg you to beg him to sue me. I beg you. Adam, if you happen to have the balls to watch this, which we know you don't. We know you don't. Adam, we know you don't have the balls to watch this. You'll claim you don't have the time, but I know your campaign watches my stuff. So, but Adam and his campaign, I swear, please sue me. Sue me. Sue me. I'm begging you. I need you to sue me. Thank you very much, Skipper. Oh, there's another person who wouldn't laugh at the death of innocents. To the Dianas in the world of the world that are out there. Hey, Georgie, thanks for being here, by the way. To the Dianas and others. I don't hate Adam. I actually care more about Adam than you do, because I know that if Adam does get elected to the Senate, what's left of his humanity is going to be destroyed. It will be stripped away. I care more about Adam than you do. But see, I care more about my country than any of you do, because Adam cannot get into office. A person that laughs like this cannot be allowed to get into office. There may be nothing that I can do about it. There may be nothing that anybody can do about it. Maybe the books are already cooked. But maybe, just maybe, one person can be swayed by one thing I say in any of the content that I put out. One person is all. Just one. That's all it takes. If we can get people to cross over and vote in the Republican primary in August to vote against Adam for any of his opponents, Michelle Tafoya, Royce White, if I can convince my fellow libertarians to cross over and vote for Adam Schwarze's opponents, or pick the person who's leading in the polls who's most likely to beat Adam in the primary, that's fine. We can cross over and do that. We don't have to vote for whoever wins the primary, but we can do what we can to make sure that Adam doesn't win the primary. I had told my researcher Natalie I needed her to be like in the chat or behind the scenes, because and she sent me a message right when I said focus. So, because I wanted to be calm today, because this makes me angry every time I watch it. It just absolutely makes me angry, because it strikes my moral center. Partially because I let Adam fool me when I met him. I thought, man, this guy might be the real deal. And I'm embarrassed by that. And I publicly need to say this too. This is going to blow everybody away. I owe Royce White an apology for not seeing what he was seeing in Adam when he was calling Adam out. Royce and I are probably never going to be friends. There's just too much water under that bridge already. We share some mutual perspectives, but I'm not likely to ever run in the same circles as Royce or be in his friend group. I told Rebecca, the chair of the Libertarian Party in Minnesota, and she's also the Libertarian Party candidate officially on the ballot for this fall. She had made a post about aligning with people, partnering with people, forming coalitions with people, and she's kind of tired of forming coalitions to try and win, because a lot of times you have to partner with people you don't agree with. And I said, it kind of goes with the old saying of, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And I've always said that in reality, the enemy of my enemy is most likely a worse enemy. But if somebody who opposes Adam Schwarze can benefit from any of the stuff that I'm going to be putting out in the days and weeks to come, God bless them. Let them use it. Let them use it. Royce clipped my video and put it out on his social media in front of his audience. Didn't credit me. That's fine. I literally don't care if I get credit. I don't care if I get the views. Because this isn't about me growing my channel. This isn't about me getting, hours. It's not me, earning income. This is literally about fighting what I see as banal evil. It's not even banal. This is pure evil in the guise of a Republican candidate for Senate. Who laughed and made jokes and more jokes about dropping white phosphorus on women and children. And then at the end, said it was the most epic, most cool thing that he ever experienced in his entire military career, even when he was a SEAL. So no, Adam Schwarze is not a man, because he's nothing like my friend Kahanu, who saw the wars and weeps to this day. A man doesn't see an atrocity like thousands dead, women and children, innocent women and children, non-combatants, burned alive by white phosphorus, and laugh. That's not what a real man does. Kahanu AVA is 10 times the man that Adam Schwarze will ever be. I want you to hear him one more time.
It was, so my company command at the time got like hauled in, like there's investigations, they're ready to like, probably court martial him. It was a big deal. And then like I think it was Age Orange and some CA guys, they did like a BDA of like, what if, so there was a lot of women in there, there was a lot of children. It was like it was like the bad guys and their families. Everybody died. But also like 15 of the top 20 most wanted terrorists in like Iraq were in that building.
Wow.
So it turned to like, all right, well, now we can't screw this guy over because they killed like these super high level leadership within the terrorist network. So, but that was just an epic engagement that I'll never forget.
And were they all from the same, I guess, organization or
Good question. I never got like the BDA. I just saw the guys in the windows, and and I know that 2 days earlier, they had come and killed my brother. So
yeah,
we put a stop to that.
Man, what an intense night.
That was like most visceral.
Yeah.
Of anything combat, SEALs included. That was pretty.
Wow.
That's pretty cool. Of anything combat, SEALs included. That was pretty.
Wow.
That's pretty cool. Of anything combat, SEALs included. That was pretty.
Wow.
That's pretty cool.
Um,
Of anything combat, SEALs included, that was pretty.
wow.
That's pretty cool.
Of anything combat, SEALs included. That was pretty cool. It was so cool, Adam, to kill thousands in a community college in Kufa and rain white phosphorus down on top of non-combatant women and children, killing them and leaving them forever scarred and destroyed. So cool. And this is who the Republicans want to be their their senator from Minnesota. So cool. So cool. Until next time. Sic Semper Tyrannis.
We are go for liftoff in T-minus 30. Stand by for further instructions, Minnesota Black Robe Regiment. Secondary guidance systems engaged. Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, it will be on my mark. Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, you are over the target. You are authorized to fire at will.